Hello everyone, episode 21, it's Cleveland Browns, and let's be honest, I did not have a greatest of the day, so I felt like, well, it's time to do the Browns, man. Because, this picture kind of represents it. Browns fans, this is nothing against you. I have nothing but an utmost respect for you to endure this, to really be behind your team, despite shitty ownership, despite every fucking thing that happened in the last 15 years, something like that. It's a hard team. It's a hard team to cheer for, but, if there is ever a chance for this franchise to turn it around, it's you guys, it's you fans. So I'm going to try to be positive. At the same time, I will keep it real with you because this franchise is on fire. And I don't mean it in a good way. Like, this is a circus on fire. It's shit show. It's absolutely horrible. And the future, doesn't necessarily look much better. Now, for this episode, I will start, unlike with others, not with the draft, but with one of the decisions that happened in free agency, like outside of the draft, let's say. And that's the decision to resign Myles Garrett. His guarantees are not clear here. It was like 130-ish millions. It just wasn't even fitting there. So don't take guarantees on this one. But you can see D- for Myles Garrett resigning one of, if not the best defensive player in the league. It's like, why? And that's an easy answer for me. I feel like this resigning actually puts this franchise to even biggest shit show that it was before. Let me explain. I think Myles Garrett is worth every goddamn penny. To me, he is the best defensive player in the entire game. I have this much respect to him. I think he's freaking tremendous. So this is not about money. If anybody deserves $40 million a year as a defensive player, as a non-QB player, Myles Garrett would get my vote, most likely. So this is really not about the money. This is about how this resigning is just not aligned, at least in my eyes, with the actual timeline of this team. Because, for everything that went bad for this team, I really think that the future is kind of even worse for at least 2 more years. And here is why. Well, salary cap. Let's start there. Because this team has around 70 million in dead cap situation. And they've done this over and over, similar situation to the Saints, but I feel like, well, this is our Superbowl window. That's why we acquired Deshaun Watson. They constructed his contract, so his cap hits, especially in first years of the deals, are actually very low, and they pushed a lot of money down the line, and they really don't have nothing to show for. But now it's time to pay the dues. And for example, for next year, they are minus 10 millions without any extensions, without anything. They are minus 10 millions in terms of cap space. So, and that's just who does not have a contract for next year? Wyatt Teller, Joe Bitonio, David Njoku, Ethan Pocic, Devin Jenkins. That's just offensive guys. Now towards defense. Okay. So Greg Newsome does not have a contract. Martin Emerson does not have a contract. Shelby Harris does not have a contract. Joe Tryon, Devin Bush, etc., etc., etc. Even with those guys without contract, which are, 8 of your starters right now, you are still 10 millions over the cap. And it doesn't get too much better for 2027. There is around 100 million in free cap space for 2027. But, you will have to adjust to just even sign your rookie players next year. You will have to push money down the line. So at least for 2026 and 2027, you are in cap hell. And you also have this whilst Myles Garrett's contract is 40 millions per year, yet his cap hits are around 24, 25. How is that possible? Where they backloaded back end of his contract with cap hits. So, for example, for 2029, his cap hit is just 64.9 million, and for 2030, 57.9. So, it's that's the type of moves, that's the type of restructure or doing the contract, just in the sense that they can get under salary cap. that's wild. That's really wild. And not taking a hard reset on this sucks in my eyes. But back to the conversation. So you have a lot of guys unsigned, and the thing is, you are probably bottom 5 team in the NFL right now. I don't think too many people would disagree with that. Perhaps like Shedeur diehard fans would disagree, like this is the next great thing. Well, we'll see. But I don't think there's too many people they would not say that like this is bottom 7 roster in the league, like at best. And that kind of sucks when like you're already playing on a depth for this year. And for next year, when you consider what made this team great last time it went to the playoffs, which was actually 2023, it was great running game with Nick Chubb. Well, unfortunately, Nick Chubb's gruesome injury previous season, he just could not recover from it. It sucks. That's just the game of football. I hope he's going to find some success with the Texans, that he can rejuvenate himself to enjoy the ball. And like if he can be 80% of what he was at his best, wow, that would be freaking amazing. I don't necessarily believe that, but I have every wish in my wish bones to wish it to him. And it was great running game behind one of the best O-lines in the football. Like at that time, you could say that about this O-line. The thing is, now this O-line is kind of average, perhaps slightly below average, and aging as hell. Like Joe Bitonio, he's definitely not a Pro Bowl level guard anymore. Like he's still good, very good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not this is not prime Joe Bitonio. He's 34 for weekend. I mean, like there is a good chance that he's not even playing football next year. Like it was a chance before this season. The other problem is Wyatt Teller, who actually is only 31, but his decline is much steeper from what was once was a Pro Bowl guard. On right tackle, Jack Conklin, for the money we are paying him, he gives you solid production, but also 31. And Ethan Pocic as a center is 30. So, okay, like some of the offensive line can age quite well. And I would say like Ethan Pocic and Jack Conklin, perhaps like they could be guys like playing in 2 or 3 years, like still giving you solid production for not superior amount of money. But it still means that one of your strengths now is average and is probably going to be a liability in year or two. And you don't necessarily have a great pipeline to replenish that. You hope Zach Zinter, you hope Devin Jones, but that's definitely a problem. Now, you also don't have, obviously, figured out the most key position in football, in quarterback. It's like, well, the hope is, one of those 26 guys that they have on the roster will hit. And truth to be told, I think Shedeur Sanders can be a starting level quarterback in this league. At the same time, I think his upside, at like absolute best case scenario, is he's still 2 tiers of level behind Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, who you have in your division. And they are not going anywhere in like next 5 years unless there is some gruesome injuries to these guys. So, you start to see the picture. Well, let me refresh some of the other memories. Like for start of 2023, this was sick defense, like Jim Schwartz blitzing the hell, like playing super aggressive. It was amazing, but it kind of faded away. And your 2 corners in Emerson and Newsome, after their rookie year, we praised them so much. Now, like, do you even prolong them? They have last year of their contract, and Martin Emerson was straight up like horrendous last year, horrendous. And what do you do? So you are left with Denzel Ward, so you need to replenish your secondary as well. That's a lot of things to do. Not to mention that one of the best players that you had on your roster seems like he's going to be medically retired in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So it's like, it sucks that so many bad things happens to get the good guys on this roster, as some kind of payment from, upstairs for all of the other guys you have on this roster or you had in past years that, perhaps are not great people outside of the football. And when you look at this, so we are talking offensive line, we are talking quarterback. Yeah, David Njoku does not have contract for next year, and he's already like low-key 30, right? 29, sorry. So, your kind of best offensive weapon, also questionable. Christian Judkins, who I liked as a pick, he has obviously been arrested already, and like we will talk about him a little bit more, but like running game, big question mark. In terms of weapons, okay, Jerry Jeudy had a nice season, but you don't really have anybody behind that. Interior of defensive line is okay. Pass rush, you have Myles Garrett, so that works. JOK, potentially medically retired. Your secondary, you don't have corners beside Denzel Ward. That's kind of your outlook for 2026. And you don't have money. How are you going to be good in 2026 in this division? Like, you won't. Like, it's so freaking unlikely that this team is going to be any good in 2026. And like, perhaps in 2027 we could start, some things getting right. But again, that's like 2 years from now, 2 years of Myles Garrett's prime. And, even in 2027, like the way the contracts are constructed, you are still going to be really in not a good shape in terms of cap space. Like, it's going to get better because Deshaun Watson's contract should be off the books by then, or at least a huge majority of it, but it's still going to be not great. And that's like 2 years from now. Do you start to see, like, how does that align with Myles Garrett in his prime? And like, what he does for you actually is like, okay, he may be adding 1 win or 2 for you, but it doesn't make any progress for this team in terms of, well, maybe 1 year you can be 9-8, first round exit. Good. Like, happy? I'm not as a fan. I'm not as an analytic. But mostly, like, he could be so handedly like playing you out of number 1 pick, which definitely would come a long way. So to me, this was an absolute prime situation to trade Myles Garrett, because it was not like the decision, well, he's out of his contract, we have to resign him. He publicly said, I want to get traded, and there was most likely 31 teams, perhaps not Saints, okay, so 30 teams looking at this like, yeah, we want some Myles Garrett. Saints like being in probably a bigger cap hell than the Browns are, so like for them to actually fit Myles Garrett on the books, yeah, very, very hard. Now, with those 30 teams, the storyline is that there was just not enough picks, not enough offers, like that anyone could get towards Browns to give up on Myles Garrett. And I understand. Myles Garrett is super special player, is in his prime, and he should be in his prime like for next 4 years. So I understand you wanted Castle, you wanted 2 Castles, you wanted Brooklyn, you wanted whatever. Like, but let's say Detroit is on the phone, and Detroit says, first round this year, first round next year, 2 frees next year, perhaps a free this year, and Ali McNeil. Is it perhaps the best offer you can hope for? And no, especially if like Detroit Lions first round picks are essentially like early second, because they are not going anywhere. But should you take that offer? And here to me, for example, for this offer, I will take it, because to me, those picks can absolutely jumpstart my rebuild. With Ali McNeil, I think you can flip Ali McNeil for another like late first round pick. Bills could be calling or someone like that. And I understand you cannot build teams only on rookies, anything like that. But to me, this would always be about, well, it's time to pay our dues. It's all about paying our future debts and in the meantime, really try to replenish this roster with enough picks that we get because of this trade for 2027 and going forward, that this team could be finally competitive. Because as much as I like Myles Garrett, and as much as he definitely deserves this money, he's not a QB. He can give you 1 win, perhaps 2 wins, but that's at most. And the rest of your roster is not great, and it's not going to get better. Like, unless you hit some miracles, like Shedeur is, first year Jaden Daniels, which like that would be a miracle. or like you find an age potion and every veterans you have on this roster actually can still play. You still only have those guys for 1 year. So the amount of like shit situation that you are in, like I don't think too many people actually realize how bad it is, because they see they'll have Myles Garrett. They've done a really good thing with trading back and taking Mason Graham and gathering some picks, but to me, this was absolutely a case that you should have considered those offers and perhaps made a bidding war. You could have gotten perhaps a better offer that I proposed, but I think that's kind of low-key fair. And yeah, I would like to see Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett next to each other, like in the same defense. With that scenario, I think you would stay put and drafted Abdul Carter with second overall to just get, let's hope 60% of Myles Garrett year one, and hopefully like 80 to 85 eventually, if he can become who we all believe he can. And really start from the get-go, because when you look at this, when you look at who is on the roster, how much money you don't have, and how like Myles Garrett prime does not align with like pretty much anything you have here, it's like this ship is sinking like really, really deep, and Myles Garrett is like the anchor that's like dragging you out of the deepest waters, but there is still such a long way to even be afloat. Not to mention flying. So to me, I hated this. I hated that they did not give up. There is like one saving grace that I have for this, and is with how everything has been pushed all around, it might have been not possible for them to trade Myles Garrett, because all of his cap hits that he had on the previous contract would allocate towards this year. But at the same time, I think if you really wanted, there would be a way around it. Like, put everything, towards 2026, towards 2027, like cripple yourself, but you can cripple that when you have, 4 first-round picks in next year's draft, because you will replenish that roster with cheap talent. Now, you have some ammunition, but definitely not enough to replenish everything that's going to be lost after this year, after next year, and yeah, this is really bad situation. So sorry, Browns fans, for painting a picture that you probably didn't want me to paint, but I really hated this resigning. I don't think it's a good move. Now, the only saving grace is like he gives you guys hope. Like, if I'm Browns fan, like this is the guy I'm obviously looking forward to watching every single week. But at the same time, like, could this ownership like piss you anymore? I don't know. Like, and to me, if I was a fan, and they like introduce this vision, like, this is the cap situation, this is it. We really need to be thinking about 26, 27. Here you will see so many young guys, we will give them opportunity. It should be young, fun, like perhaps James Winston Yellow Ball type of thing, where like, well, we will probably lose 20 to 40, but this is going to be a fun game. And at least we have hope for the future. Whilst, here you might lose like 10 to 20, and it's not going to be fun. So to me, bad thinking on the Browns' part. Now, let's pretend that this segment did not happen, and let's really take a look at how they did in terms of their draft, which I loved actually. Like, I low-key, if there is something that could prove me wrong on what I said previously, I think this draft actually could be a very good starting race. So Mason Graham, this is not about like only Mason Graham pick. Within itself, he would be B pick as a 5th overall. I really feel like he was actually undervalued in my eyes. Like, a lot of people did not think of him very highly. I really do. I think he was the best defensive tackle in this class. And yeah, like, okay, that's my opinion. But what really makes it an A+ is, this is 20% of Myles Garrett move. Like, yes, it would be nice to have Travis Hunter. It would be nice to have Abdul Carter, but you are not 1 or 2, or in case of Travis Hunter, perhaps 2 players away from like really being a great team. You are like 20 players away from that. So anytime you can recoup 2nd this year, 1st next year, and just still pick a great player, at least in my eyes, really good pick. And to me, this was actually a rare win-win situation, but we will get to that when I talk about Jaguars. Now, Carson Schwarzenegger, initially I had this as a C or C minus because this was early for Carson. Like, I felt like his sweet spot is 55, something like that. But learning about JOK, medical situation, and the fact that he's probably going to be forced to medically retire, which is absolutely sad because as much as I know, he's a great guy, and like what his plans are after his career seems to be really, really cool for in terms of like entrepreneurship. So like more power to him. But with Carson, that definitely changes this grade. Would it be the pick I make? No, but at the same time, I really feel like Carson is the type of guy that is ready to play, which if you actually resigned Myles Garrett, you're trying to put yourself in a position where you can compete, at least, like somewhat. So for that, it makes sense. And, with that, like the value is not the greatest, but it's absolutely okay. And I also think like with Carson, one of the things that, like similar like with Tyler Schaff, I'm much higher on than I would say the consensus is. Like, I genuinely believe these guys could be, that dare I say, Pro Bowl level talent. Like, with them, like with Schaff is, injuries, but it was never like ACL and some things that you expect to happen again. And with Carson, it's like he played 1 year. Like, he is a former walk-on. Like, nobody understands how good this guy is. And like, finally last year he got on the field and like, yeah, guys, I'm really freaking good. And, I really think that he could be really, really nasty linebacker. We saw with Zach Bond last year, like, for 4 years with the Saints, they overlooked him. 1 year with Fangio, he was a Pro Bowler and like one of the highest paid linebackers in the league right now. So I really believe that Schwarzenegger, like, potential is tremendous, and he kind of fits what you are trying to do for right now. Now, Christian Judkins as the pick, I think it was tremendous value. I didn't have him too much lower than Omarion Hampton. Totally back end of the first round was my sweet spot for him. And for what Browns want to do, want still to establish, and what I trust Kevin Stefanski to still be top 10 guy in, is their run game. They need to have good running backs for it. Jerome Ford was not the answer. Now the question is it going to be Christian Judkins? Because, like a month ago, arrested on domestic assault. What is there to say, man? Like, it really seems like Browns found another guy that is not necessarily a great person. Now, we will see. Like, there's still, like, I do honor actually a presumption of innocence, yet in this case it's like kind of much harder because like he was actually arrested, so it's not like there is just someone saying he did something. Like, there was enough evidence for him to be arrested, so we will see how this goes. As of right now, what I learned about the situation is his lawyer is trying to like forfeit his rights to expedited trial, which would move trial most likely towards next year, which would in theory allow him to get back to the camp and like to perhaps play for the Browns this year. But at the same time, Browns obviously have not signed him yet, and there could be a question like how much of the rookie contract they would guarantee, etc., etc. So there could be some disputes, and we are 3 weeks away from starting the league, so that's not a good place to start. And the second thing is like how the league is going to react. So they don't have to allow him to play, like they can suspend him. I think he's on like some kind of list that does not allow you to play. They need to decide, well, there is enough evidence for him to most likely be innocent that we will allow him to play. So yeah, that's pretty shitty situation, and I'm like, Christian, yeah, I lost for words there. So as a pick, love it. As as everything happened after, because I don't think there was necessarily like warnings of this. Yeah, that's let's just hope it, like, I can't say like, let's hope he's innocent, because, like, yeah, I mean, I hope he's innocent, but, like, yeah, I think you guys understand. Now, towards Harold Fannin, love this pick, man. Again, weird player, like, definitely a guy that a lot of people did not know how to handle in the draft process, because like he comes from small university, and like what is he? Is he fullback? Is he tight end? Is he like a power slot? Like what he is? He's a playmaker. He is a player, and like I really liked like saying about Harold Fannin. It was like, well, every time they came to town, everybody knew he's going to be forced feed targets. So it was always talking about like, yeah, this is going to be about Harold Fannin. And yet, he got away with it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 100. Like, he had like 100, over 100 receptions. And I'm like, this dude just knows how to get open. He can definitely be a weapon in terms of your running game, not necessarily as like a full blocking tight end, but as a really great mover, as a guy that can take out the slot corner, or as a fullback, kind of like being in front of Christian Judkins. So I'm super excited, and I think this is very, very nice landing spot for him with Kevin Stefanski. So huge fan of Harold Fannin's landing spot here, and I'm excited about this. Obviously, I would be much more if Christian Judkins was not, did not do what he probably did. Now, that would even say, like, they would mean Dillon Sampson and Christian Judkins there, kind of very nice compliment. Big-bodied and flashy guy, really kind of replenished this room with talent in this one draft that was really nasty for running backs, with value, amazing. Like, I really liked what the Browns did in this draft. And now towards Shedeur. And this is like, obviously, a lot of people, when they talk Browns, it's Shedeur here, Shedeur there. Like, I have mentioned him like twice till now, and I will give him some time here. My thing with Shedeur is, should he have been picked in 4th round in terms of talent, like 5th round? No, like based on talent, like he was kind of tied or slightly below Tyler Shack for me as a QB 2 or 3. Then I have Jackson Dart in this class. Obviously, one was Cam Ward. And like, why isn't this not like then A+? Well, there is 2 reasons. And one reason is that they picked Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round, which, like with Shedeur, that pick just makes 0 sense. Like with Dillon, I mean, to me, he's probably not the guy that can ever be a starter in the NFL. I just don't think he has tools for it, or like proper measurements to call it. And like his pick with Shedeur here, like makes really 0 sense to me. Like, I hope I will be wrong, and like Dillon Gabriel is going to prove everybody right. But to me, he's going to be cheap backup for 4 years here. Might even like fall to number 3, or this year perhaps even number 4 spot on the depth chart, and he kind of wasted a 3rd round pick. So I low-key hate it. So that definitely what gives like what takes this grade from an A+. And the second part of this, like, it's the Shedeur part. Like, already 2 speeding tickets that would obviously push it down the line, and all of the questions that came with, if we bring Shedeur into town, do we bring the whole circus into town? And for what it's worth, it seems like there have been some changes into his management. It might be a little bit calmer, that the realization of, fuck you NFL, I don't need to follow your procedures, I don't need to play there, go to testings, might have realized not the smartest move. And it actually could put him into a nice situation, but because like if he went 2nd overall, I would say a lot of people would be hating on him and like, really not wishing him well. Here, like, there is actually a lot of like previously neutral fans would be like, okay, maybe some of them will believe like there is some kind of agenda against him from the league. No, I don't really believe that, but whatever. And also, like, they will be rooting for what is now like late round pick, day 3 pick. So he comes there, he got humbled. I at least hope so, and I don't blame him. Like, he's young, he's super talented, he's super rich, and perhaps people, kept talking him into that, and perhaps that's part of like what he, needs to be a successful quarterback. Like, he needs to have that little bit of swagger. Like, did it work for guys like Johnny Manziel? No, it didn't. But I don't like. I'm not saying like his past mistakes are not something that I would not overlook. Like he has not done anything horrendous. Like he has done several mistakes that you do as a young person, especially in his position. Now it's what can you do from now? Do you use the chip on your shoulder? Do you use the humbling of this process? Do you take it as motivation? And if so, Browns really good luck in themselves into something here. My problem with this pick is the something that you might like yourself into is at best, in my eyes, the tier 3 quarterback. And that's part of Shedeur conversation that did not get outspoken enough. He is like his best tool is actually could be here, like his processing, his anticipation, that could be it. But the tools, like he doesn't have the strongest arm, he doesn't have the quickest feet, he is not the biggest, he's not the fastest, strongest, etc., etc. So, like, can you get 85%, 90% of Jared Goff? That's kind of your best case scenario. And if that's the case, you probably turn yourself into an extending of Shedeur Sanders in a division with still Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. So to me, his upside is just not superb, and that's fine if you can actually be the type of a GM and type of organization, which I don't necessarily believe Browns are. Then in the case that he hits his upside, or like my perceived upside, you are not like rushing to the table and saying, well, we need to sign this guy, because I don't think he's necessarily worth it. So like, I love this pick in terms of, can I get 25th best starting QB this year? Yeah, I think I can with Shedeur. Can he be really super value on a rookie deal? Yeah, I think so. But I don't, and especially like, again, with his low draft pedigree, like I hope I'm not pushing myself into the situation where if that's the case, I have to resign him. Because the upside to me is just not of a guy that you win because of, or like he drags you there. Like if everything is around perfect and he is at his best, you can win with Shedeur to me. So, but not kind of like not here nor there. Like now he needs to beat the other guys on the roster. Well, I don't know, still think super nice throw, and like for where they are, like especially if they didn't have Myles Garrett, like I would actually legit see this team in 2027 in Shedeur's like third year, still on a really cheap contract with a lot of draft picks coming together. This could actually be a really nice team. Without the draft package for Myles, I'm not certain that that's going to happen, because you miss so much. Now, let's go towards this offense. And we already talked about this offensive line in part. And where to start? Let's start with positives. Cornelius Lucas, I think, is absolute tremendous signing. To me, this is one of the crimes. Hey, Morgan Moses, Kevin Zeitler, like constantly those guys that teams want to upgrade upon, or then don't necessarily get a proper chance to be starters, and they are low-end starters. In Cornelius Lucas, he's probably 30th best. In Morgan Moses and Kevin Zeitler, they are like mid-tier starter, somehow perceived as lower than that for some reason. So get him on such a freaking cheap deal. Well, like again, right now he is not listed as a starter. They have Davon Jones as a starter because of his theoretical upside. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, okay, if you want for upside, why are you resigning Myles Garrett? If you actually want to see who is your quarterback of the future, give them a proper chance. I think Cornelius Lucas is simply a better player than Davon Jones. Why aren't you playing Cornelius Lucas? It's most likely, I think, like they will go 6 weeks with Davon Jones, and especially like the brutal schedule that Browns have. It's going to look ugly, and they will turn to Cornelius Lucas. But Cornelius, change agent, and how can you not get like 2 years, 15 millions on the market where Dan Moore gets 4 years, 80 millions? I know age and some injury concerns, but like still 70 millions for a guy that's 30th best left tackle in the league. I don't get it. Now, with the rest of this group, the common theme is age and slowing down. The most, I think it was seen on Wyatt Teller last year. Like his drop from grace is the hardest. it might hit harder with Joel Bitonio because, similarly to like guys like Zach Martin, you are expecting him to be the freaking dominator on the line, and he's not that anymore. Like you see his run blocking grade from PFF, which like he are those grades, but I'm not referencing them very often. But like from once was like dominating force, like last year he was kind of like average. So that's no Joel Bitonio. He's 34, and I think this is going to be his last year. I wonder why he even returns. Like I don't necessarily think it's for the money. Maybe, like he's actually like, committed towards this franchise, and I think he is. And perhaps like help this team figure it out for first year QBs. Perhaps getting play time. That could be it. Perhaps he doesn't want to go. After a season that he necessarily did not feel like it was his best. At the same time, is it going to get better? I really wonder why he returned. But like with him, you at least have very good presence. With Vitan Pocic, I think you have solid, very very solid center, undersized but absolutely solid. And for Jack Conklin, given the money we're paying him, which is like some ridiculously low number, if there's not everything pushed into the future. Yeah, it's all forced into the future, but yeah. Okay, so they somehow renegotiated it. Yeah, there are some like weird numbers because like it says 3 years, 45 million, and his cap hits are like 5 million. So I'm not sure what like is this like a salary cap mistake? Because if he's paid 15 million a year, he's definitely not worth that. I don't know. Like it's I trust Spot Track on this, and like numbers look murky there because like when you negotiate 3 years 45 millions and then you have cap hits of 5 and 5 and 5, it feels weird. So not certain about this one. It's not like there is void years after that, only 3 million. So I'm not sure. But like, is this average offensive line? Yeah. Is it going to end as an average offensive line? I don't think so. I think they will decline. I think at the end of the year, we probably look at one good starter or like two good starters, two decent starters, and it depends whether we look at Devin Jones or Cornelius Lucas. Yeah, the great thing is they actually somehow, some way pulled Devin Jenkins here for like $3 million a year. Like, even that contract, they needed to prorate some money for 2026 just to get under salary cap. Just to tell you how screwed up they are in terms of their cap space. But for Devin Jenkins, he's a guard. I'm sorry, I don't know why I have tackle here. Like this dude, I don't get it. Like he's crazy good. Obviously, there is injury concerns with him. This is kind of a prove it deal for him. But at the same time, why he went here where like he's not even starter? I absolutely don't get this from his perspective. Like, it's not like Vital and Joe Bitonio like missed significant time last year, and I would say he's much more of a left guard rather than right guard, which like you have to overcome Joel Bitonio to play, which is like very very hard thing to do. So I absolutely don't get this. Why would you go here? Like I understand 3 million. I slightly understand taking 3 million a year somewhere. And trying to prove yourself. The problem when you are injury prone, like even if you stay healthy for that whole year, they will still point to your past. So if I'm Devin Jenkins, I'm probably looking much more for 2 years, 15 million, rather than banking on myself that I will have that one proven year and get top end like really nice guard contract. So I don't get that. And thankfully, like here, why? Like this is not a team that's going to pay you for the future, especially not for the money you would like. And you don't have like any clear path towards playing. So for Browns, like having Devin Jenkins on the bench is like sick good. For Devin Jenkins, this makes zero sense to me. Like I don't get it. I freaking don't get it. And Seahawks, why didn't we go for Devin Jenkins? For $3 million a year? Seriously? We could not pull this one? Yeah, I'm pissed. Now, like for what it's worth, they also have Zach Zinter, who was I think last year's draft. Showed some things, and with Cornelius Lucas, Devin Jones, like they're kind of 8 deep, so the fall off of this offensive line should not be as steep to like really make it poor offensive line. But at the same time, like I don't think there is almost any chance in hell that this is anywhere close to like top 10 offensive line in this year, which is kind of a problem when this was one of your major strengths. Now, towards quarterback battle, like they kind of, in a way, got lucky with Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel getting some injuries, because that allowed them to actually focus the amount of snaps that are very, very limited in camp towards two guys that I think have, like in Shedeur, and to me he makes the most sense in terms of potential, which, like, if you start, like, this is so conflicted, like you start Devin Jones over him most likely, so Shedeur makes more sense with him, though with Cornelius Lucas you have better chance to protect him, so it's like so murky. But like at least, Shedeur, for him, he's at least getting reps with first team weapons, at least some. What is going to happen doesn't mean that he's now in the front seat over Kenny Pickett, who I felt like, when I put this together like a month ago, I felt like Kenny Pickett is the most likely starter. I really don't believe it's going to be Dillon Gabriel. That even puts like that pick really into the trash, and nothing against Dillon, but like really bad spot to land in, and just not a physical presence to, I think, be quarterback in the league for really taking the tool of the whole season. Like perhaps for a game or two you can definitely go with Dillon Gabriel, but starting to get hit, yeah, I don't think that's necessary there. So at this point, is it going to be Kenny? I think Joe Flacco definitely with those injuries could get an upper hand, because you are starting, like they have a horrendous start towards the year. Like, do you, even if Shedeur looks the best in camp, like do you want to put him out there to face that, or like do you let veteran Flacco kind of take the bullet, perhaps play some YOLO ball that could in theory give you better chances of winning these games, and then you put Shedeur in or Kenny in? I think that's smarter. So with those injuries, I actually think Joe Flacco is kind of my most likely starter at this point. But like, I don't know. I think they definitely don't know in Cleveland either. And overall, like, if any one of this room is going to be good starter at the end of the year, that's a huge win for the Browns. And is it going to happen? I have my doubts. Now, in terms of weaponry, it's actually not horrendous. I was kind of surprised that they kept David Njoku. I feel like with him not being signed for next year, they might, encourage some trade talks with him. But perhaps his value after a kind of down injured year is not great. They would really, let him go. So it could be like, yeah, give him one more year here, let him help, whether it's Shedeur, Kenny, or whatever, like let him help us being better version of ourselves, let him help us develop this QB room, and perhaps there could be some extension talk. Yet I don't necessarily think you have money for David Njoku after this year, unless he actually is slowing down, and in that case, do you actually want him there? So it's like a weird question. Definitely a guy that I would look, with trading deadline approaching, that he could be moved. If he is anything close to 2023, he is your number one target, even over Jerry Jeudy. If he is like last year, you have Jerry Jeudy as your number one. Is that ideal situation? No, neither one of these is, but for what it's worth, like David Njoku in 2023 looks phenomenal as a receiving weapon. And Jerry Jeudy had stretches last year where he was spectacular. So, contract that I wasn't a huge fan of, partially because they don't freaking have money. Well, as of right now, Jerry Jeudy's contract is actually quite a nice value for the Browns. Like 3 years, 52 millions. That's nice for high end 2. I don't think he's one, like really one, but he could get to like low end 1, and if he continues to play like he did last year. He's still a nice route runner. He's still young, like he's still just 26. So there is still potential, and yeah, you can do much worse than Jerry Jeudy as your number 2 weapon. As your number 1, it's there is a short list of guys that probably does not overtake Jerry Jeudy, but yeah, like you are okay with that. You hope Cedric Tillman could be complementary weapon towards Jerry Jeudy, bigger body guy. It's like not necessarily sharpest round runner, but can run deep. There is some hope still with Cedric Tillman. I think it is his it's like he has just 2 years like on his belt, so yeah, perhaps there is a good starter in him. He looked like that for some parts of last year, then he got injured again. So we'll see in what form Cedric Tillman is going to get back. Now, with Diontae Johnson, this is kind of a dart throw totally. Like, this dude for 1 million, like, you cannot go wrong. Well, you can, because you can keep him if he is a bad locker room presence, which, you are Brown, so I don't give you even benefit of doubt that, like, if he is a disruptive, you will cut him, which, like, 5 teams did last year with Diontae. That's pretty telling, but even, despite that, like, he was actually pretty good when he was on the field, especially for the Panthers. So, like, can he realize this might be his last chance in the NFL, that perhaps he doesn't have, enough money for his entire life, and can he not be a Steelers wide receiver outside of Pittsburgh? Chances are small, especially with Cleveland Browns environment, but if so, this is actually like a solid group of weapon. Now, we already talked about Harold Fannin. This could be important starter, and this could be a good backup coming towards the end of the year. It's all about, can they use him, and am I wrong about, like, that he could be really, really super nice weapon. Now, Christian Judkins, we already talked about him. Will we see him? Nobody knows at this point. Now, in terms of backups, like I said, in terms of offensive line, yeah, you have a lot of, you go kind of 8 deep that you can survive at. Seriously, it's 6 deep that I really like. And then Davon Jones and Zach Zinter, who you kind of hope are going to develop. In terms of tight ends, I'm not necessarily like certain that you have anyone I like beside David Njoku. They will probably like give some like work. I inherit fine obviously, but like other than that, it's probably not much there. So, could they be on the market for really like pure run blocker, or like pass protector? I don't think David Njoku, neither Harold Fannin are necessarily good at it, though you can definitely play 12 personnel with Njoku and Fannin out there and not feel like super bad about it. It's all about like, is it going to be Christian Judkins? If not, Jerome Ford with Dylan Sampson, they could make sense together too, but I would much more appreciate Dylan Sampson and Christian Judkins. In terms of wide receivers, there's really not much to talk about, as it's represented here with David Bell, who had 3 receptions last year. Now they also have Jamari Trash, who did not look like more than his name last year. DeAndre Carter, like there is really nothing beside this guy. So, if Diontae Johnson does not work, expect this team to be in like 20 personnel or 12 personnel a lot. Now, we already talked about backup room. Like, is it Shedeur right now? Like, I don't know. Nobody does. Now, towards the defense of this team, yeah, you have Myles Garrett, so you are not going to suck on defense. Yet, even with Myles Garrett, they were like bottom 7 defense based on a lot of metrics last year. And he had still Defensive Player of the Year type of season. I think he could have won it. I would not be surprised. And yet, you were absolutely atrocious defensively. Is it going to get better? I don't know. Like, you are without Dalvin Tomlinson. JOK played some games last year, not much, but he played some. You lost some pieces here. Zadarius Smith was here, I think, from the edge last year. So, is this prospect necessarily better? So, Myles Garrett is out. Like, he's special. I actually really like Isaiah McGuire to like pair with Myles Garrett, because he's actually, like, even as of right now, like top 20 run defending edge in the league, which is really nice for, I think this was his 2nd year in the league, which is really nice find. I think it was like a 5th rounder, if I'm not mistaken. Let me recheck on this one. Where are you? Yeah, 4th rounder, but like late 4th. That's a really nice find. And like, is he going to give you too much in terms of pass rushing? No, but like for a guy on cheap control that I think can develop some pass rushing tool belts, that should get a lot of one-on-ones because of Myles Garrett, yeah. And for a high effort player, he had kind of a breakout last year, and I expect him to actually get towards a good starter status and be a solid 3 for this team. As of right now, like, he's their 2nd best edge, which is kind of a problem, but yeah. Now, who is there else in terms of edge? Well, they try Joe Tryon Shoyinka. cheap signing again. Like you sign a guy for 4.5 million, and you have to put 3 millions towards next year because you just don't have a cap space. It's not going to get better for at least 2 years, guys. Like at least, So this is kind of a reality. Joe Tryon, for what it's worth, is like nice dart throw guy that could figure it out, and perhaps like with Isaiah McGuire, that could be like solid rotational duo. Am I excited about that? They also have like Alex right there. Like I kind of hope that their starting rotation is actually Joe Tryon, Isaiah McGuire, and obviously Myles Garrett, because if anything, you want to see what you have from Myles Garrett for years after this one. To me, Alex Wright never returned his third round pedigree for now, but perhaps like in his final year, that could be something. I'm not certain. In terms of interior, like they have actually nice backups. Malik Collins. It's not about the player. It's not about like this is some kind of outrageous contract. You just don't have money to go around. And I think, do you miss so much if you just take guy in 6th round this year or take really like minimum free agent contract here? I don't think so. So, I was kind of against this spending, but it's not something like horrendous. But it's still like 10 million a year for next two seasons, so it's not small. Michael Hall Jr., like as a prospect, he was fine. Obviously, as it's kind of natural for anyone in Cleveland organization. Not anyone, I'm sorry. Like that was harsh. For some guys in Cleveland organization, he had his troubles with law. Like when he was on the field, he actually looked very good and as nice. For this year, nice rotational guy. Yeah, but can he stay clean? Will some more things emerge from the past? That could happen. So, in terms of rotation, you are not bad. And in terms of starters, Shelby Harris is kind of like your definition of not great, not terrible. He should not be your best defensive tackle. He should be your number 2. But he is not a negative. And when you have Mason Graham next to him, who I think is ready to start, and absolutely the guy that I do expect to outgrow Shelby Harris, though is he necessarily potentially an elite player? I think he might be slightly capped to low-end amazing starter, high-end importer starter. That's kind of cap I expect of him. But for now, you actually want him to play, and this is part of it. Perhaps if you wanted to go for the most upside, you could have taken Walter Nolan here, but when you look at this team, they kind of want to compete right now. So for that, definitely Mason Graham makes the most sense for me, because he is, to me, the most ready to start. And I think within this year, he should be at least on Shelby Harris, quality. And next to Myles Garrett, he's probably your second best pass rusher, even perhaps already, which is not the greatest situation to be in. In terms of run defense, this should be pretty legit defensive line. In terms of pass rush, anything that's not Myles Garrett, it's going to be hard to come by. Now, towards linebackers, this is actually a group that I'm absolutely okay on this team. Jordan Hicks, similar to Shelby Harris. Is it great? No. Is it terrible? Hell no. Very nice, average linebacker, can do kind of everything that you ask him on a good level, nothing exceptional. Had kind of really great year last year. Will it continue to happen? Could he actually emerge even sniffing the top 10 of linebackers? I do have my doubts there. I'm not saying it cannot happen, but I would be surprised with him to really making that leap. But you kind of don't need him to, or even don't expect him to. Did I lose him? Where's Jordan Hicks? Oh my god. Did I miss some news about Jordan Hicks? Because I cannot seem to find him. Oh, he retired. Fuck. Oh my god, I did not see that one. Sorry guys. He retired? Oh damn. Where did he retire? Oh, July 25. Oh, I missed this one. Okay. Sorry for this. Well, that's a problem. Sorry for missing on this one. So Jordan Hicks is not there anymore. That sucks. Like he kind of retired with one of his best seasons in the league. So kudos on him. That puts David Bush in, which is not ideal. Why is it not ideal? Because Devin Bush, similar to Carson Schwarzenegger, is like kind of a headhunter, and they will give you some flashy plays in terms of run defense, but there will be a lot of misses. So yeah, second level of this defense could be in major issues in terms of if running backs get there, is it going to will they stop? For what is good for is in terms of coverage, Carson Schwarzenegger is actually ready to play, and you hope to teach him some run defense. But this is actually ugly. Given JOK retirement and Jordan Hicks retiring, JOK potential retirement. So they've added Jerome Baker. They also have Mohamed Diabate, kind of guys that I don't necessarily want to start, but next to Carson Schwarzenegger, perhaps they could be better pairings than Devin Bush, who I think is a nice, sharp missile to really play fast, but with not much discipline. And to expect Carson Schwarzenegger, whose discipline in terms of not shooting every gap that he sees was sometimes abysmal, and overall is definitely questionable, and it's going to be something he needs to learn. That's a problem. So yeah, I'm sorry guys, this paints even worse picture than I imagine. It's rare that Jordan Hicks retirement actually makes me feel about some units in worse case and in worse, but yeah, I think here it's actually kind of a trouble that they are going to be there without Jordan Hicks. Okay. Now, where does this leave their secondary? Well, we start with their safeties, which I think I'm absolutely okay with. Grant Delpit and Ronnie Hickman, solid starting duo. With Hickman, I'm actually not going to put it past him that he can improve. He's an undrafted type. In his second year, he was looking, I would say, very, very nice. And could he be one of those guys that you just find as an undrafted pickup? He plays his ass off, and is your long-term starter. He can get 3 years, 24, 30 million next season, and kind of be your safety that you are not worried about, that you don't expect some spectacular things, but you are never worried about. Yeah, and I wish that to him. And with Grant Delpit, from Ronnie, you can expect him to play deep. Grant, he's going to play much more closer to line of scrimmage. They are a nice pairing. Both are 24, 27, so they are definitely not at the back end of their careers, and there is some potential to improve. Is this some game-changing safety room? No, but it's pretty solid. Getting Rashawn Jenkins here, I think he's here much more into how to say it nicely. Yeah, nicely. If those guys get injured, he can play, I would say, much more of a Grant Delpit's role, but he's here, at least to my eyes, to kind of put fire under Greg Newsome. Are they putting him? Or what happened with Martin Emerson? Did I miss another statement? He got hurt. Oh God, really? Yeah, he's on. Oh my God, Martin Emerson is on IR. Okay. So those he's kind of here to perhaps take a role of nickel corner, someone who can play as that big nickel in Rashawn Jenkins. Right now they have Cam Mitchell listed there, Greg Newsome as outside corner next to Talented Ward, and Martin Emerson on injury reserve. Again, both Emerson and Newsome were pretty horrendous last year, and one of them injured, one of them questionable. It's not great when you hoped that one last year of their contract you can get them to perhaps get back to 2022 glory. So this put even more pressure on you because, at least they were kind of the evil that Now we are in a territory of Chiguzi, Anusiam, or Cameron Mitchell. Oh, they played horrendous. Yet I would trust them to play better than these guys that I just listed. So, yeah, in terms of secondary, you have Denzel Ward, who is actually underappreciated corner, I think, in the league. I kind of don't see him ever mentioned in top 5, which, would I put him on my top 5 list? Close? Probably not, but he would be on my top 10. And I would say there are several lists that don't have him there. I really think he's special. And last year, his numbers were actually pretty damn awesome given this defense was actually kind of horrendous. If Myles Garrett did not win, quarterbacks had a lot of time to throw to. The other two guys were horrible, so you try to give them as much help as you can. So Denzel Ward was left on the island dealing with number 1 receivers, and he was pretty damn good. So he's your saving grace here. Safeties are very solid, but nothing to write home about. And second corner, nickel, slot. I at least had some hope that, final years of their contract, they can prove something, but one of them on injured reserve and not really certain if and when he's going to come back. The other with questions after such a horrific season. Well, once again, come back to the start of the video. How does this timeline match with Myles Garrett? You see every contract that we do or they do, they push money down the line. A lot of holes on this team. Not so much young promise because you didn't have 3 first round picks in last 3 years, so that kind of sucks. That's one thing when I listen to guys from Bootleg Football who I have utmost respect for. They were questioning the drafting of this team. They didn't have stars, they only got contributors for the last 3 years of the draft. I mean, it's hard to get stars when you don't have first round picks. And they didn't necessarily mention that, so that to me was kind of unfair. I actually think Andrew Berry is doing a pretty good job assembling this roster, but Deshaun Watson trade is just so freaking detrimental. Not only you are paying $50 million, 5th of your cap hit previous year, and now 6th of your cap hit to a guy that's atrocious, and right now is off the field and probably is not going to play anytime sooner for this team. Not only that, but you also spent several first round picks to get him. The detriment of that is not only in cap hit. Missing on 3 first round picks that would have been in some cases high first rounds. That's huge, man. Now, where does this leave this team in terms of their schedule? In terms of backups for secondary, I don't like them, and I told you, so we'll see. I predict them to finish 4-13. Jordan Hicks, neither Martin Emerson's injury actually changed that. I already felt really low about them. Some guys predict them to have 7-8 wins. I don't see that. And let's talk about it. First 6 weeks, it's who starts. And I have Kenny Pickett on the picture, who to me was kind of a favorite because, if I look at the schedule, I want guy with experience. I don't want to throw a rookie quarterback into this gauntlet. And, if my choice is Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, maybe Joe Flacco can give me slightly more chance to win some games. But if I want to see a guy that, potentially could be something for us, as well as not being a rookie and could be able to handle this, I'm starting Kenny Pickett. So that was my original thought. As of right now, it might be Joe Flacco. Nobody knows. But when we look at the schedule, is your most winnable game is probably Bengals at home week 1 because Bengals are always shit in game 1. That's kind of your most winnable game. After that, at Ravens, at home against Packers, at Lions, at home Vikings, at Steelers. Good freaking luck. I think it's 1-5. It could be Steelers, it could be Bengals, perhaps Packers or Vikings. I do believe they will scrape one win there, but I would not be shocked if it's 0-6 start. Now, for the second part of the year, my storyline is, what now, Myles? And it ties towards what we talked from the beginning. I love Myles as a player. I have really nothing bad to say about him as a person. At the same time, if he wanted to win, it's not here. It does not align with him. at best 2027, that's where this team could be potentially playoff contender if like a lot of things go right. And like playoff contender that could actually maybe do something in the first round, not just like themselves into a 7th seed and like go out. That's at best. And you know, like this could be a time of a year when there could be some hope. Like those are not necessarily the greatest teams in the world. They could beat them. I don't necessarily expect that because he doesn't have help. There is so many holes on this roster. Like with Jordan Hicks retirement, Martin Emerson injury, like there are even more than I thought when I assembled this. And for last part of the year, you know, that's where like some of the hope with perhaps Christian Judkins or Harold Fanning, Dillon Simpson, perhaps, you know, Zach Zinter can figure it out. Perhaps we see Tevin Jenkins, run and fun offense. You know, Kevin Stefanski perhaps saving his job at this point. I'm not sure like what is the plan there, because like when you look at this, you do really expect doing good, or like, and if not, like if the plan was always to fire Kevin Stefanski if they don't win like 8 games, which is almost impossible, then why did you keep him in the first place? I don't know, but what I like about him and what I think he actually does a really good job at is assembling really nice run offense. And we could see that at the end of the year with those young pieces actually ascending to be really nice, like solid weapons. Overall, 4-13, they might be in contention for the number 1 pick. And like, you know, if everything goes right, every freaking thing, this could be an 8-9 team. I don't know what would have to happen for them to outduel that, and it's just ugly, man. So sorry, Browns fans, to end on a sour note. For what it's worth, I like your draft. I think you put yourself into strong position for next year. Whether it's, well, one of those guys hits and we don't have to look for a QB at least next year, and we have 2 first round picks that actually could be high first round picks. Or, you know, at least we have those first round picks to perhaps pair with and really go get our guy for the future. So with that being said, this was Browns episode. Thank you for listening and see you with the next one. Bye bye.